Hey there, welcome back to the lovely audience to the podcast this week. Hey, how you doing, boys?
Doing good, doing good. It's been a great week so far.
Living the dream, baby. 4:30. We just got done with busy season. Just fucking grinded our asses off. Had a little celebration. You know how it goes.
I don't really, but you could tell me a little bit about it.
Well, when you bust ass and you work for a good place, they take you out for drinks and they buy your food. And that's celebration, baby. That's about it. You're pretty much a slave to the corporate world. They just pay for your couple of drinks and your food, and they say good job, pat on the ass.
They give you a little pizza party with the 2 liter and a
It's
slice
like
of pizza.
you remember your fifth grade pizza parties. It's like that with beer.
Yeah.
You get deep fried pickles for a lot of work, but I
Okay.
like deep fried pickles.
Yeah, I love me some deep fried pickles with some ranch.
With some good homemade ranch. Yes. Yes.
What kind of beer is you drinking?
It's a little bad, baby. I
Okay.
heard they got
Hold
Bush
up, hold up.
Apple back on the market though, so I'm about to get a case of the Bapple. You guys remember the Bapple?
Careful, we're not sponsored by any of these beers yet, okay? So
Well,
relax.
we
What we
could be
promote.
sponsored by Miller Lite. That's the beer choice. Miller Lite. If you're out there, I love you.
Hey,
Let's
Angry
get that
Orchard,
sponsorship.
Angry Orchard, hit me up, let me
Honestly,
know.
I'm okay with any beer. Bud Light, you want to hit me up? I'll suck a dick. I'm okay with it. Sponsor's a sponsor. I'm not gay. It's sponsor though. I'm kidding. I might be gay. I'm
Hey, and
kidding
that's
about
the
all
part of the podcast where we let you know that Hunter is now exploring new options.
that.
Buddy went to New York and realized saw something different. He was like, "Oh,
A
Yeah,
lot of
what the
people
hell
out
did you
there.
see in New York there, buddy?
A lot of fucking people. I'll tell you what, dude. New York's an interesting place. It's like one of those places like when you're on top at New York, like when you go to a rooftop bar, you look out on the entire city and you're like, this is the coolest place ever. And then you ride that elevator back down and you look at the floor and you look at all the people touching you and you're like, Jesus Christ, how the fuck do you do this?
yeah,
Like it's a lot. It's a lot. That's the best way to describe it. It's a lot. It's like concrete jungle. On top, it's great though.
Nice, nice. I hear there's a lot of millionaires there. I think one in every 26 people in New York is a millionaire.
yeah."
I don't know how true that statistic is. Dude, there's a lot of homeless, but
A lot of people too.
there's a lot of people. It literally. So here's a crazy thing about New York. So the second biggest city in the United States is Los Angeles, and New York has about 3.5 million more people than Los Angeles. So Los Angeles has a population of about 4.5 million. New York has a population of about 8 million people. That's kind of insane when you think about like number one to number two. You know what I mean? It's almost 2 times as big as the second biggest city. New York City as itself is just insane. It's an insane place to be. It's super happening. It's super big. It's cool. It's definitely a cool place. It's scary if you're not from a big city, but there's a lot of shit going on. A lot of people know what they're doing. A lot of people don't know what they're doing, but you know what I mean. It's so different from anywhere else in America.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did some research. It said that it's 349,500 millionaires currently living in New York City.
That's
I mean, that's insane. I'd like to know like the per capita because like you figure if New York is almost twice as big as Los Angeles, and you figure how many millionaires live in Los Angeles, like the per capita of New York is truly insane. I mean, it is. Here's a fun statistic. So I was out there and to buy a house in New York, like in the city, like a house that's like right next to another house. Like I guess you call it a house or a condo or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But you got no property, you're butt to butt with another house. About $750,000 for a 3 bedroom like brick house that's butt to butt next to another house. You got a backyard. All right. Do you know what you could buy for $750,000 in like Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Ohio? You can buy a fucking 8 bedroom house with a pool in the back on a lake. You know what I mean? So it's like it's all about perspective. Like that's kind of a crazy thing. Some people buy this house in New York because that's what they want. That's okay if that's what you want. But also, like, what else could you get for that money? And that really, like, when I looked at that, it showed me, like, a perspective of life. Some people, you may think in some instances, like, this isn't worth it, but obviously enough people do that they think it is. And that's a weird thing to think about. Like, life is all about perspective. New York's all about perspective. There's a lot of things happening. It's expensive, but it's cool, and it's big, it's happening, and it's busy. And some people love that shit.
Yeah. Just one more thing to note on that. It does say that one in every 24 residents of New York are millionaires. And then it also says that it's
That's
it's
crazy.
also it's also home to 744 centimillionaires that are worth at least 100 million. And then it says that there's also 60 billionaires that live there.
So I saw a statistic about New York too. I don't know how true it is, but I did read it, so we're gonna say it's true. So it's like 60% of the people living in New York from 18 to I think it was like 30 have parental health. Not parental health, parental guidance. Their parents help them pay for the rent because it's such an expensive place to live compared
Yeah.
to everywhere else. Like it's almost impossible for a kid coming out of college, even if you're coming out with the best degree. You say, all right, I'm an accountant. Okay, you say you come out of school with an accounting degree and you want to move to New York and you make $80,000 a year. Your rent's what, $4,000 to $5,000 a year by yourself. You can't afford that. So most young kids living in New York have parents helping them actually survive New York City, which is an interesting statistic as well when you think about, everybody there. But it's a cool place for sure, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth and prosper there. My girlfriend actually lives in Jersey City, so I've been looking at a lot of that stuff.
Okay. Sounds like you
Nice.
liking New York more and more.
Yeah.
When I was there, I tell you what, I actually hate New York, but I like Jersey City. I'm not a big, it's New York's too busy for me, but Jersey was kind of quieter. And when you like the step away from it all, it was really cool. And to look back and see the city, really cool. When you go into the city, though, that's when you get that like, fuck, you know what I mean? That type of feeling. But interesting for sure.
Great intro to the episode. So, we are fresh off some great conversations with our boy last week, and I just want to dive in a little bit this week on the episode about the difference of being, having the hustle and then also being humble. The real difference between the winners and the whiners of the world. Okay, and this week, this episode might step on some toes, you know what I mean? But hey, if the shoe fits, wear it and tighten it up, because it's time to get real again. So,
Yeah.
welcome back to the podcast. And hey, we just want to talk, about a little bit of accomplishments and how all that ties back into your mindset. And, what you did in the past is all cool and all, but, what are you doing in the present to make sure that you have a better future? And so that's kind of what we want to get into today. Boys, I'm happy to be back here with you. We're making some progress. At this point, the viewers have seen some episodes now, and this is episode, I want to say 8 or 9 already. So,
Yeah.
shout out to us, man. Shout out to us for getting, we're making it, we're doing it. Okay. And the difference between doing it and all the other things is a big gap because, thinking about doing it is not doing it. Okay.
Yeah.
Looking into doing that thing is not doing it.
Yeah.
Researching it, practicing it, whatever. None of those things are doing the thing except for doing the thing, my people. And that's a big part about it. We're doing the fucking thing, and we want to be able to inspire you to be able to do whatever thing in life it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, yeah, let's talk about it. So, first, I do want to start talking a little bit about accomplishments in life versus connections. And so, do your accomplishments actually matter if you don't know how to actually move in the room?
Well, I would say no. I mean, yes and no. Like your accomplishments will always matter, like, and they're always going to get you that first step in any door. If you got a resume full of golden tickets, say you're in my industry, like you got your master's degree and you got your CPA, those accomplishments will matter in a certain instance, but like they're only going to take you so far, and they won't matter when it comes to like if you're going to get promoted or if you want to be that next level or if you want to be that guy per se, because if moving in that door, talking with the people above you and being yourself and actually like growing your own personal like brand in a way is going to take you so much further than those few accomplishments. Those accomplishments are just going to open the door. They may get you in the doorway, but they're not going to move you through that door. You actually have to like push yourself through that door. And that's the thing I think a lot of people think about with college too. Everybody thinks, oh, I have this college degree, I should be able to get whatever job I want. No. Just because you accomplished a college degree doesn't mean you can have any job you want. You actually have to push yourself further and further your brand and your image and your own personal knowledge to kind of get anywhere you want to go in life. So yeah, yes and no, I guess would be my answer.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I would say that having a network is way bigger than your accomplishments just because, like, for instance, like sometimes I don't want to just be the guy that knows what I'm doing. I want to go above and beyond, in the career path that I am. So I call it like when I'm training the new guys or whatever that I'm bringing on, I call it, do you want to be a part of the 1%? The guy that, takes that extra step to look out into that extra, day to book those flights, or, the guy that takes the time to actually read through the email thread to make sure that all the information is up to date and that the client has everything they need to have the successful flight. So it's just all about being a part of that 1%. And if you want to be a part of that 1% of the people that's grinding, making that millions of dollars, billions of dollars, driving that car that they've been dreaming about or that house, then you have to take that extra step. And just because the accomplishments that you have does not mean anything if you have no connections or no personality to build your rapport for the world.
Well said. Yeah, I think that, a lot of people really want to win, but how many people want to be uncomfortable in that process of getting to the wins? You know what I mean? People just, we've talked about it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, a lot more people are looking for the elevator than the stairs. At the end of the day, hopping on that elevator might get you somewhere quicker, but it's not going to get you where you need to be quicker.
Yeah.
Taking the long route and sometimes going through those uncomfortable feelings. Success is not a straight path. It's going to have times of loneliness. It's going to have times of doubt. It's going to have times of things not going in your favor. And that's a part of everybody's success. Nobody just gets to the top without any road bumps. And
Yeah.
so my thing is your accomplishments that you've done kind of give a little bit about who you are as a person and what you can bring to the table, but it really doesn't, justify what's next. It doesn't allow you to just fall in the line of whatever you want and to be able to do whatever you want. You consistently have to show up, put in
Uh-huh.
the work to get 1% better every day. Again, we're not saying that you have to wake up overnight and think that you have to just change your whole lifestyle and you could just do something to be that successful person. Success is a mindset. Being a leader is a mindset. You
Yeah.
could you could have the title of a leader, but deep down, are you a person that leads by example, or are you just a person that wants to follow the crowd of what everybody else is doing?
Yeah.
To shed some personal light on this, and this is something I've kind of struggled with recently. So, for those of you who haven't been listening, I just recently, I will, as of next week, have finished with my master's degree in accounting. That to me, it is a humongous accomplishment, right? And that's great. But that accomplishment alone, that doesn't get me to where I want to be in life.
Right.
That is one step in a humongous process. And some people, and I think maybe, a lot of people will look at that and they're like, oh, you have a master's degree, that's such a great thing. Yeah, it is a great thing, but that's a step in a process of other steps and other networks and other things that you have to do to build the thing that you want. It's not just if I accomplish this, I'm gonna get here. There is no set path. There is no set, if I get my CPA tomorrow, does that mean I'm gonna be a partner? No. If I get my CPA tomorrow, or if I never get it at all, if I just have my master's, does that mean I'm gonna be a CFO? No. None of that is a guarantor to what you do in your life. What it will do is open doors, but your accomplishments are not a guarantee or not a necessity into the doors that you want in your life. They help you, and obviously you have to accomplish certain things. But I think too many people focus on like, well, I did this, so I earned this. And it's not a verbatim task. It's not I do, so I earn. It's I do, so I can maybe. So
Yeah.
I can have the opportunity. But there's always more work. You don't think I'm tired from doing all this stuff, and you don't think sometimes I think to myself, well, I've earned this ability. That's not reality. Reality is you did this for yourself, and now you work harder for something else. It's always the next step. And that's the difference between, being somebody who's 40 and complacent and somebody who's 40 and grown, and not to knock anybody who's doing anything, but I believe that.
Yeah, and some people just don't like the uncomfortableness. Maybe I just made that word up, but some people just don't like being uncomfortable. Some people like the comfortable route, their whole life to where they don't want to dip their toe or take that hot sauce to the head, because it might be too spicy or it might be sharks in the water, so they might be scared that their toe might get bit off. You got to take that leap because you looking over the horizon, but what's going on is really on the ground. Like you were saying, everything looks good at the top, but once you get down to the bottom, you down there with the regular folk. Life starts getting a little wicked.
And I think that's a big thing about accomplishments, and especially college degrees too. Is sometimes they feed you when you're into college is like, okay, you're going to get this degree and you're going to be at the top. You're going to be at the top. You're going to be at the top. But you get in the real world, you realize you ain't at the top. You ain't better than nobody else. And just because you have a piece of paper doesn't mean that you know more than Joe Schmo across the street.
Yeah.
And it's about how you network yourself and about how you sell yourself and about how you just be you, that really takes you from being, that guy who has a piece of paper at the bottom from that guy who has a piece of paper sitting on the skyscraper. And it's, at the end of the day, that's not what we all want to do, right? Nobody wants to be at the bottom. Everybody wants to be on that skyscraper. So I think that is the true thing, is just knowing, like, accomplishments are a key, but they are not the give all take all. They are not the end being. And that's also something for people who don't accomplish things. I think too many people sometimes they think, well, I failed and I didn't get this. Say I never got my CPA. And it's like, okay, well, I could sit down and I could say, well, I never got my CPA, so I can never become this, and I can never become that, and I can never become that. Okay, but what about all the things that I can become off of the things that I already have learned without that CPA certificate? And in my degree alone, to be a CPA, you have to become in order to have a CPA, you have to become a partner. But in order to be a CFO, you don't ever need a CPA. You know what I mean? And I guess I'm talking about accounting specifically, but I just mean in everything in general. There's always something that you can gain or something that you can't gain. Every skill you gain is a key to your little arsenal. And just because maybe you didn't take one path doesn't mean that you are shoehorned or you've lost every instance of growth. There's
Yeah.
always some way that you can find a way to grow or to change your brand or to change yourself to be better. I'd like to say, accomplishments help and they open doors, but just because sometimes if you don't get them, sometimes if you fail, sometimes maybe your failures are for you. Maybe that's the best failure you ever had. Maybe that failure changed your mind. And maybe that change of mind, it showed you what you wanted to do. And maybe what you wanted to do was so much better than what you thought you needed to do initially. And sometimes you need that little punch in the face. So, it's not necessarily about accomplishments and failures. It's about how you pivot from them as well. If you get hit and you fail and you say, well, that sucked, maybe this isn't me. Maybe the next thing really is you. And that's all that matters is you keep fucking at it. You keep pushing. That's what gets you there.
Amen. And I think that's another big difference between the people that are going to be good in life and the people that are going to be great in life. And I want to talk about that because there's a big difference out there. And some people just heard that and they didn't really probably understand what I said. And the difference yeah, some people aim to be good at life. You want to have a good life. You want things to be good. Life is here. It takes being great to get to here. Okay. So it's like those are the differences. And that's the bridge that we're talking about. You can easily have a good life and live comfortably, if that's paycheck to paycheck and that's, just getting by, rent's paid, bills are paid, maybe take a vacation every year, once a summer, whatever that may be. That's living a good life compared to a lot of people. I mean, like you said, we're talking about if you're at the bottom, that's a whole different story now. Because and the bottom is honestly, it's not that bad of a place to be because what's up? Everything's up from there. You know what I mean? You're at rock fucking bottom, dude. You got nothing to lose. And so, but in order to, we're talking about people that are, understanding what we're saying already, and they're kind of on their paths to success right now. And you see some people that are doing good in life. And, that might limit your thinking too. You see somebody that's living a life that you could kind of picture yourself living, and you might not even know how they got there. Okay. But it doesn't matter because a good life versus a great life requires a tremendous amount of different things to happen. You have to be uncomfortable. You have to be okay in those uncomfortable situations to where you can grow from. If you ain't growing and you ain't losing, then you ain't doing anything because at the end of the day, like we said, you grow from those losses if you have a good mindset. If you take life the right way and you're open to the opportunity of anything happening, then it's easy to take those little losses throughout a day and move past them because it's one loss closer to a win. Okay. And in sales, a lot of people, think about it as sales in the wrong sense. And that's why a lot of people aren't for sales because you, whether that be door to door, whether that be a cold calling position, whether that be maybe one where you have to put in some extra work to get your prospects. Okay. You're not just getting hand fed leads. Okay. A lot of people will take 10 no's in a row and that fucks up their day. That fucks up their whole energy, dude. Like you could be out there and that next prospect that you're going to talk to, number 11, if you have a shit attitude from taking those 10 losses before and those 10 no's that, really fucked up your mental, and you're like, man, maybe I can't sell this. Maybe, something's going on today. Nobody's buying, whatever. That's, people are going to feel that. It's all
Yeah.
a frequency thing. It's whatever you emit, whatever you put out into the world, and the energy that you're giving, people feel that. So it's all about the mindset, taking those losses easily. And it's easier said than done. Sometimes you're going to take something really hard in life, and sometimes you might look at yourself in the mirror and say, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to get over this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. But at the same time, that's how you got to keep going, because there's something great coming after that.
And,
Right,
and I,
Hunter?
I'd like to just extrapolate that on a larger scale than you just talked about sales. I mean, that's going to happen anywhere, in any
Yeah.
career. You're going to be in positions in, if you're not in sales, in any sort of corporate career, where you're going to get comments from your boss, you're going to get comments from your peers about how you fucked something up. And that's life. You're going to fuck it up. And what you can either do there is you can say, man, I suck and I'm not good at my job and woe is me, I did bad. Or you can say, all right, this is where I fucked up.
Yeah.
What's next? What's next? Okay, let me fix this. Let me fix this problem. Let me fix these comments, and let me do better next time. And maybe next time comes around and you still have the same comments. And you say, okay, you can sit down and say the same thing. All right, I got the same comments twice. So woe is me, I suck. Or you can just look back and say, all right, I know what I'm doing wrong. Let me build upon myself. And it's the same thing if you take that from a work instance to a relationship instance. You look at life and you say, this isn't going well. My girlfriend left me, or this isn't going well. My friends are mad at me. What happened? Where can I grow from this? And I think every time you knock yourself, it's also an opportunity to grow yourself. And that's that great quote. It's like, it's not about how hard you can, or how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving. And that is the truest thing about anything in I think life, about especially successful people. You don't think successful people have been hit hard? They've been hit harder than everybody. And that's why
Hmm.
they've been hit so hard that you can't comprehend how fucking hard they were hit.
Yeah.
Didn't look at it and say, man, that hurt. They looked at it and said, man, how the fuck can I dodge that one? How can I move, or how can I take that hit? And that's what differentiates you from the person standing next to you. It's not how hard can I hit you back, it's how hard can I figure out how to fucking move away from that. How hard can I figure out how to capitalize on that, hit you back in a different way. Not necessarily a one to one. And I think that's reality. It's trying to capitalize on your losses. Everyone's gonna have losses. That's life.
Yeah. Like today I went to Bible study, and the pastor was telling the story about how he was going to get his doctorates, and he had a lunch with this well profound guy that was also, if not already got his doctorates, about to get it, as the pastor was just starting. And he was saying that, the guy was telling him, yo, it took me about 3 times to pass. I failed twice, and the third time I wanted to give up, but a guy came through, and I prayed and I passed, and that was like one thing that that resonated with him, and he didn't end up going back to get his master's until this year. And that he talked about that happened in 2020. So it took him 5 years to go back and get his doctorate, because in the back of his mind he would play back that conversation that he had with the man that took 3 times to get his doctorates, because he kept failing, and it took him 5 years to go back and get it. Now he's about to graduate next week, I believe, as well. So it's just like, you're gonna run into things. You're gonna talk to people that they had mistakes in their lives, or they had to jump through these obstacles, but don't think that those obstacles apply to your life as well. Like we all have our own agenda, we all have our own path, but it's dedicated to you. Like David and Goliath, Goliath was a giant, and he walked to David, but David ran. David ran towards, the guy that a lot of people would have shied away from. He ran towards it because he knew, he had somebody greater on his side. So, never compare your life, never compare your circumstances to anybody else, because God has a plan for you, and he's going to make sure you succeed. It's just up to you to make sure you go down that right path.
Amen. That's
100%
well said.
amen.
Yeah.
That's well said. I mean, that's the thing. People, you got to realize that, for all of us, and this speaks for everybody, life's hard. It always has been, and it always will be.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of life. Matthew McConaughey said it the best. I mean, everybody goes through it. So it's don't feel alone just because things ain't going your way. Like he said, don't look at other people that haven't been able to succeed in something and compare yourself because, hey, oh, I see this guy, he's been making more moves than me and he can't even do it. It doesn't matter. You're a whole different person. You're your own man, you're your own woman, whoever is listening. You know what I mean? At the same time, I think that more people need to look at themselves and think that it's them versus
Yeah.
them. It's not you versus everybody else. It's you versus you and what you can do and control. And then so that kind of brings me into our next segment, and it's, are you coachable? So I want to talk a little bit about just people in life and us specifically as well. Are we coachable? Do you consider yourself a coachable person? And how, critical is that to you, one's success?
Yeah. So for me, I feel like I'm coachable, but I'm the type of guy that's like don't micromanage me, coachable. You know what I'm saying? Like tell me once or twice, walk me through it, and then let me go about my business and figure it out from there. Don't hold my hand. Okay, Elijah, this step that. No, no, no. I don't need all that. But yeah, being coachable is like one of the top things that you need. Like going into the league. I think I don't know if we're getting into this now, but I was going to bring it up anyway with the whole Shador thing, him getting drafted, I think round 4 maybe, if that. And, we had him projected at the end of the college season going, first round, top 10.
Yeah.
So we see how everything can go about. And one of the biggest things that the NFL, agents or whatever the guys you
The
want to call,
scouts.
yeah, scouts was saying was like, we don't know if he's coachable. He comes
Yeah.
from, when we could talk about between great and good, he comes from greatness. Primetime Deion Sanders, but Shador, you're not great yet. You good. You haven't
Yeah.
even made that
Good.
leap into like the next level to become great. So yes, you got to be coachable. You got to just be humble.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think one of your best strong suits in life is to be coachable and to learn. And I think that kind of stems from what we were just saying, is to learn from your mistakes. Learn from when you're getting hit. Be coachable. Learn from where you went wrong. On a personal instance, though, like you can only be coachable so far. I'm not the type of person like you can't coach me to be a different person. Like I'm
Yeah.
always going to be me. Some people, you can coach them to be a completely different person. Some people you can't coach them at all. And I think you have to find out like what you're able to coach. Me personally, you can coach me on a lot of things, on a lot of specifics, but like at the end of the day, like I'm always going to be like this person sitting here talking to you. And I think you have to know those certain aspects. Like, do you want me to change how I do certain work papers? Do you want me to change how I look at certain things? That's fine. But like I won't change how I look at reality. And that's, and that's one thing that like, you have to know about yourself though, because like you can't go into a situation and say like, oh, I'm 100% coachable and then be upset about somebody trying to like coach you that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I'm not 100% coachable, and I know that. You know what I mean? I'm not, but I agree. You have to be coachable to succeed, but also, you don't have to change who you are to be coachable, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And I
Yeah.
think that's something people have
Not
to,
a yes man.
take
Don't be a yes man. Be coachable, but not a yes man.
yeah, exactly. And that's what I was trying to say. Being coachable is not necessarily being a yes man.
Yeah.
Being coachable is a necessity in life, because also you don't know everything, and
Mhm.
that is literally the key of any career you do. Like you don't know it until you do it, or until you do it wrong. And
Hmm.
if you don't ever do it wrong and nobody ever tells you you did it wrong, then how the fuck are you ever gonna know? That's being coachable. It's somebody saying like, hey, that's wrong. All right,
Yeah.
that's wrong. Okay, that's fine. Let me rework it and let me change it. That's coachable. That doesn't mean you have to change you. You got to change that instance. You got to change that, that thing. And so I think it's a necessity to be able to look at yourself and to say those things.
100%.
Yeah, I kind of take a similar stance to both of you. I mean, I've always considered myself to be like a sponge. I like to absorb as much as I can from any situation. I love to learn new things from people in the fields and in the careers that I want to be in. And like I said, like you sometimes look up to those people that you want to be like in a sense, but again, you aren't those people, you are yourselves. So you got to remember that too, because you can't just look and idolize everything that somebody does and
Yeah.
expect to just follow their what they did to lead you to the same route. That's just not how life works.
Yeah.
But in the same instance, like Hunter said, you don't know everything. especially us, we don't know. We know a lot of things about what we know, but we don't know what we don't know. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I think it is so important to be able to put your own twist on things and to be able to have the, be a good listener. Listen to understand instead of just to reply always. You have to, whenever someone's talking, don't just think about the next words that you're going to blab out. Don't
Yeah.
just think about the perfect response that might impress them or might be, make you look savvy or make you look a little bit like you already know what's going on. Don't be that guy. People can sense it. It's like, oh, this guy's a fucking know-it-all. Like
Yeah.
nobody even wants to coach you at that point. Then they're just gonna let you sit there and fuck up
Yeah.
because okay, you have a bad mentality about it. So when somebody that is qualified to be speaking to you is talking, listen. Be a good listener. Learn to be a good listener and learn to, like Hunter said, okay, you're not going to change the way I look at reality. You're not going to probably, if you think the sky is green and I tell you it's blue, there's nothing you're going to be able to tell me about it. But if you can give
Yeah.
me a perspective of yours of why you may think that, I'll take it with a grain of salt. And that's another thing. Take things with a grain of salt. I don't know how many rooms I've been in. Elijah used to tell me this actually. We used to have some uppers that used to, tell us this and that and kind of try to, lay out the plan and the strategy of how we were going to do things. And at the end of the day, they weren't in the trenches doing the work with us. So it was like Elijah always told me, make sure you take what they say with a grain of salt because yes, they have the best interest for us and they have the ideas maybe, but we're going to be the ones to implement them. So at the same
Yeah.
time, you can take what they have to say and okay, I'll take the good from it. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't maybe think about that. But when it comes down to executing, it's on you. You're
Yeah.
the one that's executing it. So
Yeah.
take things with a grain of salt, but also be able to be coachable. Don't have too much pride to think that you know it all because pride can be the devil. And again, with Shador Sanders, back to that real quick, I think in that case, pride was the devil for him. And
Yeah.
because, okay, I'm pretty sure actually, I know he went pick 144. I want to say that's the fifth round. You said fourth, but he might even slip to the fifth, which is even crazier. And so that's just crazy because, like you said, he was a projected top 10 pick. Mel Kiper, the guy who handles the NFL, like Mel's big board whenever the draft's going on, like he shows the best available players. Bro, Shador was like the third or fourth available player from the jump. Like
Yeah.
as soon as the draft started, he was right there as okay, teams should be looking to take him. They didn't. Every team passed on him, including the Browns, who eventually took him. They took another quarterback in the third round before him, Dylan
Yeah.
Gabriel. So it's just one of those things. It's like, okay, yeah, I saw the same thing. They said that in his meetings with the owners and the coaches and the GMs, he had a piss poor attitude. I mean, he came in literally not caring about what they had to say about him, and he kind of felt like he was bigger than the program.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe at Colorado and Jackson State when your dad's the coach and you got Travis Hunter bringing all the attention, and yeah, maybe you are bigger than the program. You were. Okay, you
Yeah.
brought, like Jaquay said last week, nobody knew who the fuck Jackson State was. Deion Sanders and Shador and Travis Hunter went down there and turned it up.
Yeah.
Then they went to Colorado, made them relevant again. He just thought that he was going to carry that same swagger and that same mentality into the NFL, but he doesn't realize this is a $1 billion business.
Yeah.
It's his business at the end of the day. So are you going to be good for the locker room or are players going to even like you, because of the way you carry yourself?
And I think that's something that like we've touched on that kind of carries this whole thing over is pride. And I think a lot of people have this false institute of pride. And don't get me wrong, pride is your biggest friend, but it is also your worst enemy.
Enemy.
Because, you have to have pride to be yourself. You have to have pride to
Yeah.
wake up every day and to say, I am the best and I want to be this person. And that's great. And I would never tell you to not have that pride. But guess what? You can't walk into a room full of people with just as equal as you and to say, my pride is bigger than them. And that's
Yeah.
where, I think, especially where like media and social media and everything gets involved, where, you tell yourself, well, I am, I am, I am. And it's like, okay, your pride is one thing, but like reality may be another. And that's,
Yeah.
I think, too many people nowadays don't have that reality check. I can tell myself, let's look at a real note. I can tell myself I have 2 years of accounting experience and I have a master's degree in accounting. My pride could tell me that I am worth how much money.
Yeah.
Okay. But how much money am I actually worth? You know what I mean? And that's, without even giving figures, like those are two different standpoints. I can say I'm worth this because I did this and I've worked so hard, and that's my pride. But how much am I actually worth? And that's the same on the draft and everything else. You can say, I've done, I've done, I've done. But what are you actually worth? And that's your pride in any scenario. And I think pride could be your best friend, but it also could be your biggest enemy. Don't let your pride outshadow who you actually are or your accomplishments. Always be willing to hear somebody else out, even if somebody you think is maybe not as smart as you or maybe not as good as you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have an idea, or maybe they have a move, maybe they have something. Everybody's got something to give.
Yeah.
I think that's something that people they forsake in every instance of life. Whether it's fighting, whether it's football, whether it's work. Everybody's like, "Well, I'm better than that person. I don't have to listen to what they say." Just because you're maybe better at one thing or five things doesn't mean that they don't know how to do something else.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if you take the second, if you forsake your own pride to listen to somebody for 5 seconds, you're going to realize maybe what they're saying makes more sense.
Yep.
And if you do that, you're going to grow. And then there's your pride right there. Fuck it. It's going to keep going. Your worth is going to keep going. And if your worth goes, there's your pride. It's going to go with it. So, I think sometimes people get too caught up in like, oh, I'm better, or oh, I don't need. You always need knowledge. And that's one thing I like to tell myself. I like to hear the stupidest people talk and the smartest people talk. I like to hear everybody talk. Tell me
Yep.
what you do. Tell me why you do it. Tell me where you came from. Tell me why you came from it. Tell me what you want to do. Tell me why you want to do it.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they got something to give. They got some sort of knowledge, they learned something along that way. And it's probably something that I didn't learn because I didn't take that path.
Yep.
And my pride is not better than their pride. So why not hear them? And I think that's better.
Great analyzation there, Hunter. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's time to move into a new segment,
Let's
and
do
this
it.
one is a fun
Yeah.
little one. This is it's a little freestyle segment that my friend came up for us. So this is called Hot Takes or Hell Nas. So I don't know where the name came from, but we'll roll with it. So I want each of us to give a hot take that we may have, and I want the other two to either give it a, maybe double down, debunk it, and tell you why that's wrong, or just throw a fucking simple hell nah. That shit's off.
All right, who's going
So
first?
Hot takes about like what? Like just about the
anything,
professional
just about
world,
what the
about anything.
like.
Um,
Yeah, you could whatever just you think is a hot take of yours that not many people may agree with, but understand. Don't let the beers talk here.
So I shouldn't say there's only two genders. Like that's out of the question,
I
because
mean,
there is
hey,
only two genders.
I'm
So
not
that's not a hot take,
going to debunk
right?
or say hell nah to that.
I
what do
mean,
you?
it's just not a hot take,
So
right?
you're doubling down, Elijah?
I doubled down right there.
If
Yeah,
there was
I'm not gonna
anything I could do
debunk.
more than double down, I would do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and double down with you, 200, because I don't think that born men should be participating in female sports, no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether however you think, if you're born that way or if you choose this decision, I don't think should be competing versus. There's a reason there's men's and women's sports. You can't
Yeah.
just kind of play that gray line and just pick and choose.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if that's a hot take anymore. I think that's more of like like a 1% of the population wants to be super loud about it, and everybody else is like, wow, that's kind of fucking insane kind of take. But, I just like to bring it up, just to be sure, we shouldn't have, men beating up women. It's not fair, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I'm a feminist, I like women. They should have their own sports.
I'm also a feminist. I love women.
They're
They're the best.
smarter than we are.
Yeah, there's a reason they live longer too.
On a real note, though, like women literally are like smarter than men on like a whole lot of levels. But that's a whole different like instance, and that's why there's a difference between men and women. Like you can't look at a biological being and say like, oh, they are the same. You're not the same. You're not the same as a woman. A woman's not the same as me. If 100 trans men died on an island, and in 1,000 years we dug up their skeletons, it would be a fucking 100 men on an island,
Yeah.
and that's about as simple as that becomes.
There you go. Elijah, you got one?
Yeah, so I was at work watching this like little how to be great videos, like 25-minute videos, and it said that the modern world glorifies feelings and despises discipline nowadays. I'll say it one more time. The modern world glorifies feelings and despises discipline.
Sounds like a liberal ideology.
So it's more saying that we put feelings into everything besides, facts, So we can go back into, the whole two genders thing. We're having full debates with the government, raising this as if, why does there need to be a thing? And it's because it's feelings involved with it. It's not, this is the fact. This is, I feel this type of way, so I'm going to react based off my feeling without knowing the actual, the actual answer, but since you have feelings involved, you're reacting that certain way. And
Oh,
I would, and I kind of agree with that statement though.
I 100% agree with that statement. I mean, I think that's one of the problems with the modern world is, too many people take into feelings, without facts. Even if you look at like this whole DEI stuff, and pilots,
Yeah.
it's like, in a way, when you put it on paper, it makes no sense. It's like, okay, why would I not just hire the most qualified person, regardless of who they are, regardless of whoever they are? I don't care if you're pink, purple, black, white, yellow. I don't care. Why would I not just hire the most qualified person for a job because they are the most qualified? That would be the semblance of like non-discrimination, would it not? Like if I did not care who you were, but I hired you because of your merit, that would be non-discrimination. But then all of a sudden you have in the modern world a sense of like, okay, no, I have to hire so many of this personnel and I have to hire so many of
Yeah.
this personnel. Okay, well, what did you just do? You just created groups of people and you actually just segregated them across the board and you've just said, well, I have to hire so many of this segregation and this segregation and this segregation. What? You just counteracted your entire statement of everybody should be equal and inclusive. And if everybody was equal and inclusive, then we shouldn't look at things based on a segregated view, correct? We should look at things on a merit. And it's the same with when affirmative action was going on in colleges, which has just recently kind of gone away with most colleges, but it was the same thing where like they would say, okay, we have to let so many people of this personnel into a college because they are of this group of people. Well, what merit is there? Okay, and then also you're not taking into account like other merits, like you can say, okay, maybe there's social distance in that merit. Okay, what about like social wealth? What about like everybody else who is this race who's just as poor as that race? And I think like there's a sense of like modernization that has generalized too many groups of people, and it actually hurts a minority because in a
And
way
it,
you're saying like this minority needs this help, and I'm not a minority race, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in my eyes, it's saying, okay, this minority, and then this is a college, you're saying this minority race needs help getting into college, so I have to help allow all of them into college. That doesn't seem fair, okay? Like that in a way seems even worse than just saying like why don't we just let people in on a merit based on who you are. I don't think anybody needs extra help based on their race. That seems super bad. And I think those sorts of ideologies are very bad in a workplace and a school place instance. It should be based on how hard do you try. You want to look at people based on their wealth, based on their standing, that's one thing, okay? But I don't think we should look at people based on a DEI policy of who are you based on color. And I think that is like the opposite of what we've been trying to get away from society. We've said from society from what let's say the last 200 years, we've said we should not look at people based on color, right? I think we can all agree on that. But then all of a sudden, it's normal for America to say we should hire people based on color because we want more of this color. That seems very skewed, and I think that's a slippery slope. If we can hire you based on this color now, what could we hire you based on what color later? And also it's not fair, it's not fair to anybody else who works that hard, and it's kind of doing people who don't, a disservice. So there's my hot take on that.
Good rant. Where's it at?
you didn't do it. Just there.
All right, I'm gonna give both of those a hell yes, even though that was not your own hot take, Hunter. You turned it into your own again. So I think those were both very good hot takes. I will agree with both, Elijah. I think that a lot of people, forget about the discipline and things, and they just want to bring, the feelings into it. And so it's like, yeah, it's like, let's just be more accountable. How about that? Instead of just giving everybody a fucking excuse for why they are the way they are, just do better. Okay. And then Hunter, same thing. I think in the same sense, just do better to get the job. Like, don't,
Yeah.
don't, don't try to pull a card out and be like, I got a trick card. Like,
Yeah.
it's cool if you're fully qualified and better than that person. But at the same time, why do we want underqualified people just based on colors?
Color and
It's,
sexuality.
it's, it's bigger than black and white people.
Yeah.
It's a
And
problem with the whole
sexuality.
way of life.
Yeah.
So, my hot take, I have two since I got to sit and listen to both of those for a while.
Sorry about that.
No, I loved it. One of mine is I don't think that most people are burnt out. I think they're uninspired.
Ooh, that's a
Good one.
good one. That's a good one.
Very good one.
Well, so what do you think is causing them to be uninspired?
Like, I just think that people, like, maybe they hit one of those roadblocks and then it's like, oh dude, it's like it's I've been going through it, like I've been working my ass off and it's just like I'm burnt, dude. Like, and it's like, no, you might have hit a roadblock to slow down some momentum, but it's
Yeah,
like if you are inspired and have some discipline to keep going, then you're gonna get past that burnout stage. Like, yeah, bro, we get it. The weekends are cool to take a chill pill. Like
yeah.
Hunter's drinking a brew right now on a Wednesday. Like, bro, it's cool. It's fine. But at the same time, handle it and then move past it. Don't use it as an excuse. People use, justifications for why they are the way they are, but just work. Just
I
put in the work.
completely agree with your hot take though, because like I myself have been a victim to that. Where
Same.
sometimes you feel, you've worked so hard, you're like, fuck it, I've earned it, and it's like, and especially when you're in a college instance, it's like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? And that's a big
Yeah.
thing with college students. It's like, what the fuck am I going to do here? How the fuck do I get out of this? I'm in all this debt. I'm burnt out. I'm burnt out. And necessarily, maybe you're just tired, but it's also, what the fuck do I do? And it's this overwhelming feeling of stress. I feel that now sometimes. Yeah, I'm drinking on a weekday. But regardless of that, like I feel that now with my own job, but I have a career and that makes me not like necessarily burned out because I know like I am an accountant and I can work and do this sort of thing. I do think that is a feeling though where sometimes people get caught up in the fact of like I've worked so hard and I've earned this and I'm burnt out, I'm tired, not necessarily like what can I do to get out of this. And it's a hard thing to pull yourself out of, and that's one of those things where you just have to like instead of putting your head down and saying like fuck, I'm tired, it's more of like, oh fuck, I'm tired. How can I keep going? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people just get sick and tired of running in circles. Like a reference that I was about to make is like I hate running on treadmills because I feel like I'm just in the same place when I can just go to a trail or go, run a 5K, and I'm running through different scenes and I'm running through instead of being on a treadmill to where I can see the beautiful on the Peloton or whatever the fuck it's called, the little bike, or you can see the little outside, the sunset. Why do that when you can actually be outside and actually run and see the sunset in real life? You know.
Yeah.
And one thing with that too is I like the it's something I tell myself when I feel that way is everybody's burnt out, and that's something that kind of like kicks me through it. Is like you don't think everybody's tired. Even the people you don't think are tired, they're tired. Everybody's tired. Everybody's got a reason to be tired. It may not even think that it may not even be a reason that you think is valid, but everybody in life has a reason to be burnt, a reason to
Yeah.
be tired, and a reason to be upset. Yours isn't any bigger, you know
Nope.
it's all perspective. You just keep
Yeah.
on
All
keeping on,
perspective.
man.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on.
Here's my second one. If you still blame your parents past 21, you've already lost. Hot take. Yes, sir. Let's get into it.
I
I
disagree.
will. I will debunk. I'm gonna debunk. I'm not gonna say hell
By the
no.
way, I did not come up with that one. My friend did, but I wanted to put it out
That's
there
a
because
good
I
one
think
though.
I think that low key that's facts, okay? Because get your shit together on your own. You're a grown ass man. But
I would say
anyways, go
facts for
ahead.
my
Let's hear it.
own life. I would say facts for my own life, but in the general population, I would have to debunk just because some people went through some fucked up shit with their parents. Whether it was mental, physical, emotional, some of them, like I said, for me, I didn't get close to my mom until I was 21, junior year at college, and we never bashed heads, but we never saw eye to eye. So I'm not saying that, but that's what I'm saying. For me, I had my head on straight, before that. So our relationship was never affected, really until like that summer until I had to go away, back to school and reassess everything, so I'll have to debunk just because, like, coming from like other people and like having family members that still like fucked up over that shit. I just say sometimes, your parents can fuck you up a little bit, especially if they don't put you on the right path. They don't surround you about around people that's actually care about you and want to see you win. It definitely can take a toll on you in the long run.
I agree with you. And the one thing I don't disagree with a statement. I really disagree with the age. I'd say you said 21. I'd say maybe 28. I
Yeah,
think
21's kind of
us
low,
21 is
especially out of
very
college.
I
low.
would
Especially
say,
out of
I would
college.
say 25, 25.
Maybe 25. And the one thing I'd say is, everybody's got a different path in life and everyone's got a different thing. And the one thing I truly believe is you are a product of the people you surround yourselves with. And especially when you're coming up with that young age, your parents are the people you surround yourself with. And if maybe they're not in the best mindset, it could lead you to that bad mindset. And also, I think it sometimes takes you growing up to understand that maybe you weren't in the best mindset. Maybe you weren't even in a bad situation. Maybe you were in a medium situation. You know what I mean? Maybe you're just in an okay situation. It's not great. It's not bad. But like, sometimes it takes you being 25 to be like, okay, maybe I want to be different than that. So I think you just need to be a little bit older than 21 to kind of understand that you got to kind of understand reality in life before you can really take that deep dive and say like this is why. But I mean, I think on a real basis, like your product people you surround yourself with, like your parents, the people who raised you, for the rest of your life, they're gonna have an impact on who you are, whether you like it or not. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna have an impact on like the person you are based on how they raised you. And I think that is something that does hold true. Now, how you deal with that is different.
Yeah.
I see another one that I kind of like that was sent to me. This isn't mine, but I like it. It's a good one. It's healing is uncomfortable. That's why most people settle for the distractions.
Yeah.
I think I'd have to say that one's pretty true because, sitting back and analyzing, especially if you got, broken image, whatever, to where you have to heal, it's easy to go, pick up the bottle, pick up the blunt, pick up the nicotine, pick up any type of vice,
Yeah.
even, going to the gym a lot extra when you're hurt. That can be a distraction. Granted, it's a good distraction, but how many times do people look for a rebound, you know what I mean, things like that? I feel like a lot of people, instead of going away maybe back to the bedroom, their own house, sitting back and really healing from it and thinking about it, I think a lot of people choose the easier route in that,
Yeah.
and they'd rather choose for distractions instead.
Yeah. I just cooked. I just got one too.
Okay.
Anybody
Hunter, do you
anybody
agree
have
with that? A hell yes is good if you disagree with that,
I
or you can
agree.
say okay.
Yeah, I agree. So I have two. I have two. First, I'll say the one that just popped in my head. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I feel like a lot of people in our modern world have turned their hobbies into their personality. So, like somebody that loves basketball, they play basketball 5 days a week. They watching all the film. They have now became a basketball player. Like that's all they know. You can't talk shit. Can't talk to them about nothing else. Or like raving. People that love like the rave or the gym. No, better. Full example, a gym head. We know gym heads that's in the gym about 2-3 times a day, but that's all they know. It's nothing else, and it's people have came to like not be able to separate the hobbies from them.
I agree. I think that's also true on like reality standpoint too. People do it with politics and their work and everything else.
Yeah.
Everybody, I think nowadays people fixate on things.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think a lot of people do that very without even knowing that they make something their whole personality. And that just comes back to what we talked about before about being well-rounded, and we all kind of see ourselves as well-rounded people. I don't think either of us can be accused of putting a personality trait, in front of everything. And I know exactly what you mean. You're talking about the people that, all they talk about is this one thing. All they do is this
Yeah.
one thing. That's fine because I like to hear passion coming from people, and if that's what you're
Yeah.
passionate about, then that's cool. But yeah, at the same time, man, if you're a rapper, don't make being a rapper your whole personality.
Yeah.
Like that shit's annoying. Okay.
That comes with it though. Like you can be a rapper, but you don't have to sell drugs and fuck random hoes and shit like that. Like to be a rapper, like
Mm-mm.
that don't come with it. Uh,
I think a lot of it too is just like being able to branch out on different levels. Like you could love, just on a gym instance, you can love going to the gym, and that could be your biggest hobby. But you could also like other things to talk
other
about other
things.
things. I think sometimes people just get fixated on it, and I think that also has to do with social media and everything. People get fixated on certain aspects of life. It's like, okay, I want to be the biggest or the best. There's other things in life other than that one thing you're focusing on.
Hmm. And then my last one is those who wait for the right time are already defeated.
Yep. I would say, yeah, because if you're waiting, you're not putting shit in motion. Okay. So I agree. I think that if, yeah, you can, you can wait for God's timing in some certain aspects, but you can't just expect to sit there and wait. It's like that story
Yeah.
where the guy's out drowning in the middle of the ocean and he's sitting there and he's praying to God to rescue him. And a boat comes by and he's like, "Hey man, do you need some help?" And he's like, "No, don't worry. God's coming for me." And then another boat comes by and it's like, "Hey man, do you need some help?" And he's like, "No, I prayed to God, he's coming to get me." And then a third boat comes by, same thing, and he dies and drowns and goes to heaven. And he said, "God, I prayed for you to save me. Like I was waiting for you to save me." And
I
he said,
came three
"I
times.
sent 3 boats." He's like, "What more did you want me to do?" Like, and it's
Yeah.
like that's the thing. It's like you eventually can't wait for life to come at you. You have to take some steps towards life.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Okay, okay. All
I,
right, in our last segment before we wrap it up, I want to get into a couple of would you rather questions.
okay.
And I'd rather just keep the responses short and sweet and let's just, pick would you rather. So, first question is, would you rather make 250,000 doing something you hate or would you rather make 60,000 doing something you love?
3,000 doing something I hate.
250.
Hey, 250 is quarter million. I'm probably gonna run with that too
All
because
right.
that's gonna make me happier in the long run when I could start getting the things and setting myself up better than 60K. So
Back.
Rather
I think that
retire.
one's kind of easy because hey, making 250 a year, I wouldn't have to do that job forever.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another one. Would you rather be rich and unknown, or would you rather be famous and barely getting by? I think that's an easy one.
Rich and unknown.
Yeah. That's too
Re-
easy. To be honest, I don't give a shit about fame. I would rather just have the fortune instead of the fame.
Yeah.
I think it'd be dope as fuck actually to just be a baller and nobody even know who you are. Like
I would
that's
just
pretty
love
cool.
to go like to
I
like
think
the
I'd rather
football
not
game.
be famous.
Yeah, I'd rather just not be famous.
I just want to be able to go to like events and shit and look around and be like, I could buy this motherfucker if I wanted to.
It's gotta be kind of crazy to be famous though, and like step out on like the real world, and then like people always know you and or taking pictures of you. It's
I
gotta be
get
kind of
sick
a
of that
weird
so
thing.
fast. Like, what if I'm just not having the best day? This motherfucker's like, I'm like, bro,
Or like,
like,
what if you just want to go to the local pizza shop, dude? And it's just fucking snapping pictures of you. You're just like, I just want to get pizza.
I just want to know if it's worth it.
How much wealth is worth it? I guess.
Like, is it worth it? Is the fame worth it? Like,
I think it depends on the level, dude. Like if you're like Tom Holland, everybody knows you, you got a bunch of money, probably. But if you're like mid level and it's like most people know you, but you don't got a lot of money, like
Yeah. Another good one. Would you rather lose all? This is a good one for our age right now too. Like, because if you ask this question in 20 years, it'd be a completely different answer. But would you rather lose all of your money and assets that you have now, or would you rather lose all your connections?
ooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm.
so like I wouldn't know anybody at all.
You'd just pretty much wake up tomorrow and let's just say you know your family. Okay. Let's say you never left. Like it's like you never left home.
Oof. Lose all my.
But you still got the same amount of money. You might have your 1K, your Roth IRA, everything's still in pushing. And now you just kind of got to restart and make every brand new connection. That's why I said it's interesting because we're at this point where we've built good connections and you've probably, you set up a decent amount of steps towards your fortune too. So it's like,
Yeah, and you also lose some of those connections too.
yeah.
Where we're at right now, like some of the ones that you had very tight. Now it's like y'all barely speak to each
Like
other.
keep in mind, you already graduated college, but it's like you never met anybody there and you can't go back to college. Or you can, but you're now 24 going to college again, restarting and not knowing anybody.
That's a good one, bro.
I guess the weird thing is like my connections haven't made me any money yet.
Right.
So it's easy to say like I could lose my connections, but it's also like I think my connections could make me more money in the long run than the money I've made previously. So then it would say well, fuck the money I've already made, if that makes sense.
No, I feel that same viewpoint. I feel like it's a hard trade-off, but I feel the same way. It's like those relationships are going to be better off later on, and that rapport is already established now. So it's like, damn, to put in that's a lot more work than to put in the work it would take to get some more money.
I guess, yeah, the way I look at it is like the money I made right now was not made off connections. Like I made it off of just like
Yeah.
busting my ass. You know what I mean? I can always bust my ass later. I can bust my ass tomorrow, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Took me a
think.
But that
while to make them
sucks.
connections.
Yeah, but dude, that sucked to go down to $0 too. Like right now.
Yeah.
It would, but like think about like all the connections that you're not even comprehending, like all the people you met at the bar. You know what I mean? That like may have been a weak connection that you were never gonna think about again, but like maybe in 4 years, like you'll meet that person again. They'll be like, "Hey, I remember talking to you like 10 times at Dom's."
Mm.
That's a connection that could like maybe foster to something else.
Yeah, you never know which relationship's a relationship that pays.
And that's why I think it's always good to be like nice to everybody you meet when you meet them for the first time, especially.
Oh yeah.
So what are y'all saying? Y'all saying drop connections or keep the money?
I
I'm
drop the money.
saying I'm saying empty out my bank account. Let's run it. Let's restart. Let's keep these connections. And now these connections are for sure gonna make me some money. I'll tell you that much. I'm gonna make them make me money.
Also, I guess it's like, how real are these connections? Who can I hit up and say, like, hey, can I get some side work? Can I get a couple, what else? What do you got for me? I've known you. You got anything I could help on?
You're like, dude, I just chose you over all my money, dude. Like, let's get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess it also depends on the connections you have and the person you are. If you're somebody who went through college and didn't really make a lot of friends, you probably keep your money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elijah, what's your answer? Because
I
my
think
next question kind of follows up on
I
this.
think I'm up.
You're gonna keep your money. Your job literally was because of a connection.
It was. It was, bro. But
Like I don't know how this works in that scenario, but you never met that guy anymore, so you might get fired now.
yeah, but if I had no money, my family ain't taking me either.
Oh, they taking you. You're family.
Nah, best friends shouldn't count.
They count. They're connections. They're the best connections.
So I'm just out here dolo.
You're out here dolo. Like you can meet somebody tomorrow, but that's the first connection besides family.
Yeah, bro.
Wow. You must have a lot of money.
Lord of Maine.
All right. Now, so that's like a smaller scale. You think that question was a good one. So now we're gonna up the stakes a little bit. That's why I said we're gonna think about it a little differently. So now here's your two options. On this side, you have a $1 million check. Okay. On this side, you have a full 24 hours worth of undivided attention and game from your biggest mentor. And I'm talking about they're spilling every tip and trick that you're asking for. You got a notebook, you're ready to write down as much as you fucking can in that 24 hours and learn as much as you can, hoping that it's going to make you more than that million. Me personally, I'm probably going to be crazy here and say that I would fucking take the 24 hours of undivided attention and game. Like I'm talking about we're fucking drinking some energy drinks all night. Like we're staying up this whole 24 hours. Like we're going to get, like I need to know, let's just say I pick a billionaire. I need to know what the fuck you can tell me to make me become a billionaire because there's got to be some info that you can easily pass on to where if I start working at it, it'll make me more than $1 million. I just think that any billionaire could be able to tell me how to make $1 million or more. And if I work at it, I could do it.
See, and that's where I disagree because we just talked about how you are not somebody else. Just because you have a million doesn't mean somebody else's billion is going to make you your million.
Right.
I would take the $1 million. There's nothing anybody else can tell me to make me from a millionaire to a billionaire other than what I could tell myself. And I truly believe that. You give me $1 million, you give me $1 million. $1 million is a tremendous amount of money. You put half of that in a fucking bank account. You take the other half of that. You buy yourself a fucking indestructible house and a nice car. You are set for life. You put yourself in a position of fuck you. I don't need anything. You've just put yourself in a position of comfortability for the rest of your life. What else do I really need other than that? I'm
You
set.
forgot. You forgot about the fact that that million will indeed be taxed. So you ain't putting 500.
Well, no.
No, you gotta take 1 million.
Dude, this is real life. You think if somebody cut you $1 million check, you ain't paying taxes? All right, no, I just threw that curveball in there. I don't know. I just threw that curveball in there.
You said $1 million. You give me $1 million. I put 500,000 in the bank. $500,000. I buy myself a nice ass car and a fucking $300,000, $350,000 house I paid off completely. I'm in a position of fuck you for the rest of my life, I'm in a position of fuck you. I don't need you. I have a $350,000 house and a nice car. I don't need your job. I don't need your input. I don't need anything. Now I'm on a position of fuck you. I grow me. I work for myself.
You
I
think
have
a
five
million
hundred thousand
dollars is
dollars in the
enough? Hold
bank.
on, hold on. You think $1 million is enough to set you up for the rest of your life at 22 years old?
No, not for the
23.
rest of my life. I think it's enough to make me comfortable. And that's all I need is comfortability to grow. You've taken away every stress instance of anybody's life. With $1 million, $350,000 house, very nice house. Now I'm not talking a mansion, I'm talking a very nice house. That's point A. Done. Car. I have $350,000 house, I have
$650.
$150,000 left to buy a car. If I wanted to buy a beautiful car, I could buy a regular car. Say I buy a $50,000 truck. Done. Paid off. I have two things, assets in my life that I need to go home every day, completely paid off. They're done. I now have what? Let's say $550,000 left in my bank account to invest and to grow on a period throughout my entire life. That's a position of comfortability. I'm not saying I'm filthy rich. Comfortability. That's comfortability of nobody can question.
Yeah.
I have a family, comfortable. I have a house to give them. I have a car to take them places. Now, I'm not saying I can't grow myself. There's nothing saying I can't be better off of that money. That is just giving me the fortress of solitude, my friend. That's a fortress of solitude. $1 million is a fortress of solitude. You to me, you can't give me any knowledge to surpass a fortress of solitude. I'll figure out the knowledge later, but I got a comfortable place to do it from.
You got that million right now.
$1 million right now, I'm comfortable. I'll figure it all out on my house that's paid for. All I got to do is pay the taxes. Nothing else to worry about.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but you're kind of already doing this one over here though, Chase.
What?
Like when you're already talking to like a high profile dude.
Yeah, I guess mine's. See, that's the thing.
Like
Whenever
that
I
hit close
considered
to
that,
home with you, kind
yeah,
of.
but I didn't even consider it that in my response of, okay, I am currently able to gain a lot of insight from one of my mentors who's very successful. And yeah, granted, I've already been in that situation. I've got plenty more than 24 hours worth of information. And granted, yes, can I take this information today and make more than $1 million? No. But even just through our weekly training calls that I've had with my mentor, I will say he's given a lot of game and a lot of knowledge on pretty damn like setting yourself up to get to that point. Now, granted, the work still needs to be put in again. And so, yeah, Hunter, yours is like, okay, it's more instant gratification. It's like, drop that million in my bank account and let me just cook now and like, let me figure out the rest later. I respect that. And here's another thing though. When Elijah, I wasn't even thinking of him when I was talking about the mentor. I'm thinking bigger level, and I don't even have somebody in mind actually. I'm thinking somebody that's worth, like, granted, is Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk going to tell me that much shit that I can use to make money? Probably not. They're kind of in a whole different thing. So I agree,
Yeah,
Hunter, that you can't just take the most rich person in the world and expect to just
kind of like a
to
Mark
use his plan.
Wahlberg or something.
You ain't just
But
going to recreate their life. We just talked about that, though.
yeah, no,
You
I
are your own
agree.
person.
I agree, but that's why it's very important which mentor you would pick also. Because I would say there are probably some mentors that I could pick and I could replicate some of the things that they could do. Maybe not verbatim, but I could easily 100% take some sauce and turn it into my own.
But
And that's what I'm currently doing.
could you do it on a standpoint different than if you were to just do it by yourself? What I'm saying is, could what they say in 24 hours be so much more beneficial to you than what you could learn from them over a 3 year period of learning and watching their videos or even paying for whatever classes they sell while you have a fortress of solitude, a fortress of I own this and I have this and I have money in the bank. You're saying $1 million. I own a house, I have a car paid off, and I have maybe $400,000 in the bank. You have a fortress of I can do anything. Now you have time and availability at that point. Time is a commodity,
All right,
and
bro.
time is
I'm changing my
precious.
mind. Give me the million. Just put the fries in the bag, bro. I get it. The $1 million, bro. It's fine. I get it. The time, the
Yeah, he's
efficiency, the
so
paid for. I agree. And yes, Elijah, I did probably counteract my point a little bit by bringing up Brad's shit because, okay, at the end of the day, I am learning from a millionaire guru right now. Plenty more than 24 hours. And yes, Hunter, I am enrolled in his fucking school. So yes, I am at the same time, I'm spending a very small more amount and still, I get the trade off. Okay, I'm taking the million, bro. You're right. Okay, fuck it. We're 22 years old.
I'm
Give
not
me a
saying
million
you're
dollars.
wrong in what you're
Yeah,
saying. Like it's
I'm
always
just
good to
being
learn.
optimistic, man. I'm just
I
trying to
get
learn.
it. I get it. I'm just saying,
because I
dude.
was definitely gonna say the 24 hours, and then Hunter gave his explanation. I was like, damn.
Well,
Dude, that's
in
from
my
a
eyes,
movie.
I'm just thinking 2025, bro. In this economy where we're heading towards, like, bro, a million ain't as much as a million used to be either, man.
You are every bit right to think that though. But
Like,
at
bro,
20,
yeah,
at
I agree.
24, at 24 with a milli, 22, 23 with $1 million, rather than me
I'm gonna spend it, bro.
celebrating.
I'm gonna spend it.
Fuck no, I ain't
I
spending
ain't
it.
saying
I'm
Bro, I
creating a
will be.
fortress, baby.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just bullshitting. I would do all the smart things like you just said. That's the only way to do it. Dude, could you
I'm
imagine if you just hit
paying
a
off
million
my
dollar
debt.
lottery ticket? Like, Hunter, if you hit $1 million lottery ticket tomorrow, I feel like you would be switching up a little bit.
No, dude, I'm telling you right now, if I hit $1 million tomorrow, my fortress of solitude is what I'm creating. I'm buying a fucking indestructible house with an indestructible car. A fortress of solitude.
Houses
I'm in a
aren't
position to fuck
interesting.
You
you.
moving your ass straight to New York.
Bruh, houses, yeah, you're going to New York, buddy. Fuck are you talking about?
Dude, I hit for $1 million. I ain't going anywhere near New York. I'm buying a fucking 5 acre lot in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Dude,
You ain't
that
seen me
house and
again.
car are never, first of all, houses and cars are not indestructible either. Okay.
That's the point, though. You have $500,000 in the bank that's going to compound interest and be an investment opportunity. You spend $500,000 of $1 million untaxed on a 300 or a $400,000 house and a $50,000 car, maybe more. And you give tax in there, you got $50,000 worth of tax. You then have $500,000 in the bank that makes interest year over year. You invest, you pull against when your house goes to shit. You figure you buy a house and brand new house at 500,000 or $400,000. It's not the biggest house on the market. It's a nice house though. How often am I going to need to refix that house? Maybe once every 5 years. And how much is that going to cost me? It ain't going to cost me $1 million. I buy one car for $30,000, $40,000. How often am I going to have to fix that car? When I buy a brand new car for $40,000, I probably won't have to put it in the shop for at least 8 years. You would say maybe 5 years. You create an institute of a fortress of solitude. You've created comfortability in your life to then you get a job. Get a regular fucking job, and that'll pay for every other expense you need. Your house is broken, your regular job will pay for it. Your car's broken, your regular job will pay for it. Guess what? If your regular job pays for it, you still have $500,000 in the fucking bank, dude. And I'm not talking livid and lavish. I'm talking you've just created comfortability in your life that you can expand from that forever.
Yeah, it's instant financial freedom for sure.
And that's what
For
you
sure.
want. I mean, and that comes down to the point, I guess, where it's like, what is it worth more to you? It's like, do you want to have, $1 million or $1 million house and be a slave and have to work every day to maintain it, or a $300,000 house, but know that, like, if you get fired tomorrow, you still have your house? I guess it all comes down to what you want out of life. And everybody wants to be a millionaire, but it's like, that's cool, to have a good house. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. It's
I
getting to
like
that point. It's
I
getting
like
to
that
that
last
point.
piece. I said I like that.
Yeah, that was a good little combo. You definitely gave me a different perspective, Hunter. But also at the same time, these are hypotheticals, so I'm gonna be risky with it. I'm not gonna fucking play it safe in a hypothetical situation, okay? None of that's
That's why you're not an
happening.
accountant, pussy.
I'm
No.
I'm not getting 24 hours with the mentor tomorrow, and ain't nobody giving me $1 million check tomorrow. So at the end of the day, fuck it. Let's just
Hey,
work.
never say never. Never say never. Hey, you
Hey,
are
you can't win the lotto if you don't play. I need to start
That's
playing the
what
lottery,
gambling
bro.
addicts say, motherfucker.
Dude, I'm not a gambling addict. Nah, for real. Don't stay out the casinos, man. And to all you underages that are using, your other people's accounts to try and gamble, and you're 19 and you're 18 and you're trying to gamble, just relax, okay? Gambling's not good. You'll lose all your money real quick. Trust me. Because once you get older and you start, having real money and you can start gambling, fucking shit changes real quick. Okay, so it's fun and exciting to throw a couple parlays in, but be responsible with your gambling addiction. Call the gambling hotline if you start having a problem. I promise you.
yeah,
It can
bro.
get deep quick, okay? It
Bro,
can. I've seen it.
1,200. Trust me.
Yeah.
I've seen it even in my industry. We've had people get
Wow.
fired.
Yeah, man, that's pretty much a wrap for when it comes to the podcast this week, man. Stay tuned for a lot of big updates coming soon. Stay tuned for some big guests that we have getting prepared down the line. I think it's going to be really exciting to start getting some different perspectives from some different, people and entrepreneurs, people in a lot of other different careers as well. It doesn't just have to be business. And yeah, I mean, if you guys like what you heard, sometimes we get to preaching, but at the end of the day, we really just want to bring those real conversations to you and, give you some different perspectives of how we think about things. And if you like what you heard, man, go ahead and drop a like, drop some comments, share us, tag us. Like I said, we're going to do some giveaways here coming up soon. So, the future is bright, fam. And I'm just so happy that you guys are tuning in and leave some feedback. We really want to know how you guys are enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
We've been working our asses off for the last 2 months, getting this prepared, getting this ready to show. By the time you see this episode, we've been putting in that work. So just remember, all those other things that aren't doing the thing are not doing the thing. So make sure you're out here putting in the work every day to get 1% better. Fellas, if you have any closing statements, now would be the time.
Hey, no, be great, be you, and be beautiful.
Hey,
Yeah, we pretty much covered it. I was just gonna say, be you, buddy.
just be you. And that's the thing. Just be true and be you. And don't try to fake it because the real one will know. So
Real ones.
real recognize real, granddad. And you looking kind of
I'm
unfamiliar right
familiar right
now.
now.
Shout out to you guys, man. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. We really appreciate it. It's only up from here, baby. We started from the bottom with this. Get out of the rat race down there with the rats and get to them skyscrapers that Hunter was talking about earlier. It's time to improve. It's time to keep growing. Don't wait until the next day. Don't wait until the next year. Your time is now, young one. Let's get it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
I'm like
So
a Jedi.